Hi there, fellow poultry enthusiasts. Welcome to Poultry Nerds, the podcast where we nerd out on all things feathered and fabulous. Whether you're a backyard chicken keeper, a farmer looking to optimize your flock's health, or simply a curious bird lover, you're in the right place. Join Jennifer of Bryant's Roost and Carrie of Show Pro Farm Supply, the hosts and fellow poultry nerds. Ready to dive into the wild world of chickens, quail, ducks, and everything in between? Each week, we bring you expert advice, fascinating interviews, and poultry tales that ruffle a few feathers. All served up with a side of humor and a pinch of nerdiness and a few rabbit holes. Let's fly into this next episode.
And we're here. How are y'all? Today, we're going to talk about something that we haven't talked about in a while. We have Zero G Quail Farm here, and we're going to talk about freezing stuff and all that good stuff on this episode of the Poultry Nerds Podcast.
Hi, Brent. How are you?
Good, yourself?
Yeah, we've got Brent from Zero G Farms. How did you come up with that name?
So it's actually a little bit of a tip to the history of quail, Coturnix quail. So they were like the first poultry that was actually hatched in space. So that's where the Zero G comes from. And my wife also used to work for the largest model rocket company in the entire United States. So we just mashed all that together. And so we've got quail rockets, quail and astronaut suits, all that type of stuff, sort of branding stuff. So yeah, that's kind of where the Zero G came from.
See the rocket science quail?
We have rocket science quail. Quail.
People say that quail ain't rocket science, but I guess at Zero G it is.
Yeah, Colorado is also the home of Space Force, at least for now. It ties into a little bit of everything for it. So it was a fitting branding.
That's cool.
Okay, so you haven't been on our podcast, and I don't know if you've listened to them, but we tend to go down rabbit holes. So here's our first rabbit hole. What do you know about this hatching of quail in space?
So it was done by the Russians on the Mir space capsule/missions. And they were actually trying to provide a living food source in outer space. So they were trying to get quail to go up and be able to lay eggs and kind of actually do the full cycle that we know for quail and have their own self-sustaining food system up there, basically, was their intent. And what they found out, though, is that quail don't like floating around, and so they struggle to stuff like that. There's actually some pretty cool little videos. If you go down that rabbit hole some more, there's some cool videos of them trying to figure out how to make that whole thing work. But yeah, they launched them, they hatched them, they hatched right on time. It was an interesting little experiment into that self-sufficiency, which again ties back into what we try and do and teach.
I wonder how you regulate the humidity in outer space.
That's an interesting one.
I was going to ask, is it turn or no teeth?
I mean, if you're rotating around the Earth, you could be turning and tilting at the same time.
Okay. And then my second question is, so we can hatch quail in outer space, but we can't have them in HOA?
Even more of a better reason to not live in a neighborhood. But I will say that I have more customers that can get away with Coturnix than they can with hens, even though city ordinance say that they can't have birds, but they can have chickens, but they must be hens, and it's limited to 6. I don't know. We got some stupid stuff going on in Jefferson County, and that's just one of the many that we have.
Yeah, we have a lot of stupid here too, but not on our property.
That's what the gate's for.
Yeah, exactly. Stay away. You live in Colorado, Brent, right? They have all kinds of
Correct.
stupid out there, don't they?
Yeah, we got a little bit. Yeah, we got a little bit of everything going on right now. So that ties back into the whole thing is in our area, we can't really have that many chickens. But the way quail are for us, they fall into super gray areas where we're exempt and nobody knows who to point the finger at or who's actually responsible for stuff. So it works out and allows some urban self-sufficiency kind of thing going on of nobody really knows what they're doing or how to stop it or enforce it. And We just float along.
And yeah, I see that a lot with Coternics. When people get bob whites, they've been around forever, and a lot of places have categorized them as game birds. So they fall in that category. But when you list game birds, Coternics is still in that gray area. There's a lot of people that are able to give their HOAs the finger because they're not anywhere around.
It's kind of
We asked you here today because we've been getting lots of questions, or at least I have, about frozen feeders. And I know you do them a little differently than I do them. And so I thought we've touched on it before, Carrie and I have, but we're getting a lot more questions. So we're going to just do a whole episode on it and why it's really needed, really, in the world. Really. Everything eats quail, right?
Yep.
So that's why they're so slow.
It does eat quail.
So I sell mine mostly to reptile people. Who do you sell yours to?
so our main market out here in Colorado is the falconry, hawking, that type of organizations and individuals. We've been now doing this fully as a business since 2024, and I'd say probably solid 80 to 90% of our business is all that style of stuff, and maybe 10% is the reptiles or pet feeder style.
So is it like clubs, or are they like here we have rehabs? Is that what you're talking about, rehabs?
So we do rehabs, we donate to rehabs, but we also have like individual falconers that have their own licensing. They use them for hunting out here in Colorado. That isn't a season that they have. We also sell them to big organizations that are responsible for keeping track of that. Like the Colorado Hawking Association is one that we sell a lot of stuff to their members. And then we have some of the animal rescues, and we'll call it private zoos, that we also do supplying for as well.
Okay, wait a minute. Go back to the season thing. What are you talking about there?
So you've
never heard of that? That
you can hunt with
that's
the
a whole thing.
Yeah.
No,
And that is
explain
huge.
it to me like I'm a kindergartner.
So they capture these birds in Colorado. They're only able to keep them for so long. So they catch a new bird every year, and then they use that bird to go out hunting rabbits, squirrels, stuff along those lines. And when they're not hunting or they're needing to train the birds, they use our feeders to be able to supplement them. And these guys literally treat their birds like they are track stars and athletes. They weigh the birds constantly. They're doing massive tracking on these animals, which we'll get into later on, and how that affects our selling of them. But they treat them as real athletes. So they're needing to constantly give them a good quality food source that we're able to provide that way, and a consistent one.
Okay, so you have bow season, you have rifle season, there's
Falconry.
Yeah, there's
Yep.
like a whole different category for falconry. You know,
That's the stuff
they have
No.
traps that you can use to get a falcon, and then you train that falcon to get you squirrels.
For you.
Yeah.
And even in the Middle East, it's global, that type of organization and that stuff. It's been
Full
going
around
down.
land.
Look, Jennifer, I'm gonna tell you this.
I wish.
Okay, Google it once. That's enough to get it to show up in your Facebook timeline, and like you will start seeing stuff, and you're like, "Nuh-uh," but you'll watch the video, and it's cool. Like they train these birds to do some really neat stuff.
So do they bring you the rabbit back so you can cook it? Yes.
They'll pin it to the ground and they'll hold it. I mean, there's in certain parts of Asia, they have hawks that are 60 plus pound birds that they're using to hunt deer with. I mean, you'll find videos of Saudi Arabia, Kuwait. You'll see like an entire personal airline that's full, and the hawks have their own little perch hanging out, and they're in their hood, and then they go hunting, and it's a big global type of tradition.
Okay, I will Google it when we're done to rearrange my algorithm, because right now all I get is the rat terriers chasing the rats.
It's basically what that is, but from the sky.
Surely I am not going to be our only, I guess, listener that didn't know that was a thing. So I don't know. Maybe I am.
Yeah.
I doubt it, because a lot of falcon people, especially the ones he was referring to, the private zoos, those type people, you to stay at the farm, they have cell phones that they go to a gas station to buy a prepaid card for every month. That's how tight knit back. They don't want any attention. They just want to play with the birds, live their life, and have nobody mess with them. And I think it's the coolest thing in the world.
I can relate to those people.
Like, they've actually keep quiet about it. They're not like a lot of the other groups of people that do things that aren't what the world considers normal, and they do all kinds of videos on it, and people are like, "Oh my God." They don't do that.
Gotcha. All right, you learn something every day. That's what the point
It's
of the
cool.
podcast is, right?
Yeah.
Learn something new. Okay, so back out of the rabbit hole again. So these are the animals that need to eat. Have to eat something, right? So we're just feeding them instead of people, because they're not as picky, honestly. It's people.
Correct. And like you and I've talked about before, with some of our color genetic disputes and debates that we've had, my hawks and falcons, they don't care if it's an American pansy or a German pansy. They can care it's got meat and it's got the proper amount of meat, and that's all they really care about. So it's a nice break from some of that sometimes. You don't have to worry about it. And for us, what allows us to do is to cull super hard. What allows us to be really picky and know that we're not wasting anything, and it's all going to get used one way or the other. So that's really helps for our business side as well.
Okay, so let's talk about that for just a minute. So some people would grow their birds on purpose to certain points to freeze them for the feeders. And then I am a breeder first and use that as an outlet to remove the culls out of my breeding program. And it allows me to hatch way more than I would have been able to before. Like, for example, I cull straight out of the hatcher. Anything that's like super vigorous and running across the top of the hatching basket and going, save me, save me. Now I keep those, or the colors that I need or whatnot. But the ones that are just sitting in a corner and they're just all, I don't know about this whole life thing, they're going in the freezer.
All right, let me help you out with that.
And so I freeze once a week. And then after I get the hatcher cleaned out, then I'll go to the brooders and I'll take everything out that looks puny or the smallest one, or I just don't need, something's changed. And I put them in the freezer. And then I just go cyclical that way. Just keep pulling like the runts or the smaller ones, or they're not feathering correctly, or just whatever reason. They just looked at me wrong, the mean ones, the whatevers. And so, just for example, by doing the feeders on the side, I think I'm only keeping maybe 20 or 30% of what I hatch. That's a fantastic way to move your lines forward really quickly.
Yeah, and we do both. So we have so much of a client base. We do have some hatching that we do have to do just for those to ensure that we've got the birds. But then we, like you, it allows us to be super picky. I don't like how that leg looks. A jumbo bird that doesn't have a thick leg isn't going to last long. It's going to get grown up and turned into a meat bird for somebody else to eat. Stuff like that really allows us to dial in what we like for our standard of perfection for us, for Zero G. And it allows us to see and choose quality that way. I fully agree. Same thing.
Okay, so on the frozen feeders, so I do the reptile people. They want everything in grams. So everything is sized. You've got hatchling, and then it goes up in I don't know, 25, and then it breaks to 50-gram increments. Are the raptor people the same way, or do you do ounces?
And they're even more specific because they have to know that they're feeding X amount of meat to the bird each time. So the caloric value, all that sort of stuff. So they're breaking it down the same way, but they're very specific about wanting that weight range right where they want them. When we bag, we actually separate them into like half ounce range is where we usually separate them into. If they get one bag, it's all going to be half an ounce plus or minus of everybody else in that bag. So it allows them to be more efficient that way.
We'll be right back.
This episode is proudly supported by the folks at Valley Hatchery. Valley Hatchery isn't just chickens. They offer quail hatching eggs, waterfowl, turkeys, game birds, guineas, and started pullets. The list really does go on. If it belongs on a working homestead, Valley Hatchery has it covered. What we appreciate is their focus on strong, healthy birds, clear information, and real choices like optional vaccinations, so you can raise your birds the way you want. From backyard flocks to working farms, Valley Hatchery provides hardworking birds for hardworking people. Learn more at valleyhatchery.com.
So I got an order a little over a year ago from university, and I was able actually to have a verbal conversation with her and pick up a little bit of information. And she specifically wanted older birds, like the older breeder birds, versus like younger birds that were just grown to a certain size. And I asked her why. I was like, they're not going to be the most aesthetically pleasing because they're older birds. And she said, because they're so much more developed, their bones have much more minerals and vitamins in them. They're going to have a little bit more body fat in them. They're just a different nutrition profile for their purposes, whatever they were doing with the birds there. Have you ever heard that before?
I have. Most of our customers, though, when it's talking along those lines, they want to know that the birds that you are raising for them or selling to them were healthy, good birds. So usually when they're asking that type of thing, it's more of, okay, are you selling me some junk feeders or junk old breeders that are worn out? Stuff like that is more of what they're trying to confirm versus more of the nutrition side. They want to know that you're putting out and giving them a high quality product. They want something that was either raised for that or meets what your standard was to feed to their own animals that way.
So you bring up a good point. What we don't do is we don't go through our cages and our brooders and pick up the dead ones and put them in the freezer.
No,
those go out to the pigs.
Yes, if you didn't cull it yourself, it doesn't go into a feed bag for somebody else to feed to their animal.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so now let's get into the nitty gritty. So I cull using CO2 gas, and that just basically requires a shallow Tupperware and a CO2 tank, and it takes, 20 seconds or so maybe, and I can do hundreds at a time. But you don't do that. We were talking about it before we started recording. Your clientele is even more picky. So tell us how you have to cull yours.
So we have to do the cervical dislocation. So basically snapping the head of the neck. I would say is solid 98% of our customers. That is the very first thing out of their mouth. This is, how do you dispatch? And if you say CO2, they usually start asking a lot more questions. The second you say that you do cervical dispatch, you can tell the mood changes and they're much more like understanding and confirming that you know what you're talking about and you're going to meet what their goals are and their needs are that way.
Interesting. So you do all ages cervical dislocation?
Yep.
Do you like the cup method?
We just hold right underneath the breast and pop.
Do you
Takes
ever
2
pop too
seconds.
much?
You can. And those end up in a separate pile. But yeah, We do so many of them. You get used to the feel, and it's just second nature now. And you just do it super fast, and the birds don't fight it; they don't resist it. And for us, it's even on the doing chicks, which is harder. Doing a lot of chicks, it's a little rough, but it seems to be a lot less of a stressful process for the birds doing it that way, in our opinion.
No, nothing's going to be nice, right? Everything's going to have a process. I am not adept at doing it. I've tried and I just can't do that popping with my thumb. So the CO2 tank, carbon dioxide is heavier than the air, so it kind of sinks in the Tupperware. And essentially they're suffocating and then they're gone. You put them in the freezer. So I've never timed it because I just do it and then walk away and come back about 5 minutes later. But if I had to guess, I would say I leave the tank on about 15 or 20 seconds. So sound about right.
You're probably 20 to 30, depending on the size of the container, how many birds you got in there.
Yeah, it's a pretty big container. I can fit about 400 in there. But here's a trick though that I think people try to skimp on the gas because they don't want to go buy more. Is I open mine wide open, so it's as instant as I can make it.
So yeah, I have a piece of 1x12 that's about the size of the lid. I set that on the lid. Then I set a chunk of metal that probably weighs about 5 or 6 pounds, so the lid don't go. And I open the thing all the way up, and I wait until 10 seconds after I stop seeing movement. I cut it off, and then I'll go do something. Maybe 1 or 2 minutes pass, and then, okay, individuals, boom, in the freezer.
Yeah. That's essentially it. I know people ask us a lot of times, like, how do you do it? I guess they think it's harder than it really is. I learned watching YouTube videos for mice, people doing it with rodents. That's how I picked it up and set my system up. You get your CO2 gas at a welding supply store, and it is an expense. Like, you have to buy the first canister or whatever. And it's a couple $100, but it's not expensive to fill it up. I think it was $30 last time I filled it up. And I want to say, as often as I do it, I have to refill it maybe every 3 months or so. It lasts a while as long as you close the valve down really good. We did do it like twice in 1 week because somebody didn't close the valve.
I guess that's one too for you guys, since you're more experienced with that side. We've always heard that there's a lot of risk doing it with the CO2. Have you guys ran into any sort of kind of issues trying to do it, or heard of stories where people are just doing it the wrong way?
The only instance that we've had where we had an issue is my room currently has the incubator and the brooders in the same room. Now, I know a lot of states you can't do that, but it didn't matter here. And so my CO2 tub and tank are in that room, right? So take them out of the hatcher, put what I want in the brooders, and then turn around and put the rest of them in the tub. Remember when I said CO2 gas is heavier than the air? I had a big tub, a big brooder underneath of the tank, and I left it on. And anyway, I was sitting there and I was waiting, and I happened to look down at the chicks and realized the ones in the brooder below were a little sleepy. So I got I think I took the lid to the hatching basket, and I was
sort of fan.
And then they were all like, "What's going on?" Well,
yeah.
And they were okay. Just maybe be mindful when you're doing stuff like that of what's around you. But some things you just don't think about until it happens. So now I have actually moved it. It's on my work table. It's further away from the brooders. But other than that, no, I haven't had any trouble in there. Now, we did have a little instance bringing the canister home 2 or 3 refills ago. A funny story. We were in the truck and we had it tied to the tie downs right in the back of the truck. And we're coming down this road. There was a guy pressure washing his driveway. And so I said something about the guy pressure washing his driveway, which okay, whatever. But I was, gosh, that pressure washer seems awfully loud inside the truck. And David goes, it does. And then we drove past him, but you can still hear the pressure washer.
Valve picked open.
Yeah, they put that little screw-on lid on there.
This one did. We pulled over. There was a church on the corner. So we pulled in the church parking lot. David jumps out. And, of course, we had a newer truck. So the tailgate is up going up.
Oh, I hate that.
And it's frozen. And so he's trying to touch it. And, of course, you're not supposed to touch it because it's like dry ice, right? It's burning his hand. He's trying to turn it off. Actually, did you know that's how they make dry ice? Was carbon dioxide?
Yes, CO2 and something else goes in there.
I saw a thing the other day where they just take like a burlap sack and put it on the spigot of the CO2 tank and turn it on full blast, and the burlap sack filled up with dry ice. Oh, that was pretty cool.
Hey, you need to try that. It might save you some trips to Publix, the Kroger.
Let's not even talk about that right now. We're going to talk about that, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, so we have a list here. So we talked about how to cull, and then I just lay mine out on trays and set them in the freezer. Is that how you do it? There's a little fire between them.
Yeah, as long as we know that it's going to be for like falconry use, we literally cull them, put them right on the tray, dump them into the freezer, and they freeze up that way. If we know that they're going to be for like a dog food supply or something along those lines, we do gut them and clean them out before we do that. But yeah, it's basically big metal tray into the freezer and enough space where it'll circulate around them and they freeze out.
Whatever the customer wants.
Yeah.
To a degree. It depends on how big the order is.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so diet. I don't change my diet on my birds before culling. Do you?
Nope, not at all. Just feed them. We usually yank them out of the same cage and cull them out right then and there.
And packaging. Do you package yours?
Yep. So we do either the pressure sealed bags or we do Ziplocs, depending on the customers. We even have a couple that they only have 1 or 2 hawks, so they only want 2 birds per package type of thing. And that's where we'll get a little specific with the customers on how they want their own packaging done up. But yeah, that's generally all we do on them.
Yep. Ziploc bags. So I have learned over the time of doing this, you want to have them frozen when you put them in the Ziploc bags.
Yes. Yeah.
See, we have some tips for people, right? If you do it the other way around, the heat and the moisture off their bodies makes ice crystals and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's a hot. It doesn't look presentable. It's not.
It doesn't look presentable. And when I had a customer one time that wanted them packaged 25 to a pack on the new, like the chicks, new chicks, 25 gram weight range. And I was like, okay, shoot, they want a lot. Let me just try it this way. And I was like, this don't look good at all. So, yeah, I learned that lesson the hard way.
Yeah, and then write on the Ziploc bags what they are, because once they're frozen, it's hard to tell.
Yeah, and we, like for Colorado, we have to have certain processing location, all that type of stuff. So that's how we seal our bags, is with a thermal paper and a sticker thing. Works real good
Does
for us.
it fall under cottage laws?
It is. I mean, it could, but no, it's just how we have to do that stuff. So they know where it came from, and game warden doesn't pull somebody over and think it's a wild bird or something like that and cause issues. So yeah, we have to have them marked and how they are processed.
Yeah, we took the time to freeze it and then go out in the woods with it.
You'd be surprised.
That's we in a Ziploc bag and call it a day. People need to move on and more special things to do.
Yeah.
Okay, so we touched on this a little while ago, but the old breeders, so those aren't really pretty enough to sell to retail customers. Is that a nice way of saying that?
Yeah.
So
especially if you're having your breeders run the right way. If you've got a 1 to 4 or 1 to 3, those hens look rough.
Yeah. Yeah. So raw dog food people, they're fine with that because they're okay with some feathers, but they don't necessarily want all the feathers. The dog food people.
We'll sell them even if it's doctoring guys. But we do a huge discount on them, and we're very upfront about, hey, this is a breeder batch. Do you want a discount set so that you can have a little bit of a discount? And usually they're pretty okay with that. We always declare what it's going to be.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Now, you do anything special? Cut their toenails or beaks, or you do that stuff?
Yeah. So I would say 90% of our customers out here want the lower leg removed, which actually works out pretty good because then you don't end up with toes trying to poke through bags, stuff like that. We just run through and clip the lower leg off once they're been dispatched, and then cut the lower leg off, throw them in the freezer, and let them ride. But it's got
Do you dehydrate the lower leg and sell them for cat treats?
We have, and actually our pet food guy, he'll take them, he'll do stuff with them on them too.
Mm-hmm.
So it allows you another point of sale too. You're able to use more of the bird and more of the profit out of it that way as well.
So another tip, if we want to go backwards a little bit here to the freezing part of it, you were talking about the legs poking through. So I set mine on, I'm just going to say it, on the hatching time baskets that come with the C2 180s, you know, the two that you sandwich together.
Yes.
I use those. I don't use those because my big hatcher has different kind of baskets. So I actually use them for freezing the quail is what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And you can, you know, they're rectangular, so you can offset them in the freezer.
And you can offset them, crisscross them. You
Yeah.
get great airflow with it.
So when I set them on that, I actually tuck their feet underneath of them. I don't just throw them. I take the half a second. Once you figure it out, it just takes a half a second. And like they're sitting upright, like in a crouching position, like a cat almost. And that does make it easier to package them later.
We used to take rubber bands and do it that way. And literally, you hold the wings in, legs in, and just kind of make a softball. And that used to be the way we did it before we had so many people just requesting the lower leg to be off.
Hey, you know what? And now you've got me thinking, I wonder if they even care about the wings.
So our falconry people want the wings. You could for some people. I'm sure if I brought it up with enough customers of, hey, do you want these or not? That'd be another byproduct that you could turn around and sell as well. But yeah, most of our guys, all they're wanting removed is the lower leg, and then everything else is fair game, basically.
And so for our listeners, the reason why I bring that up is you can dehydrate the wings and sell them for cat toys, for bird dog trainers, for treats, for just
Lots
whatever,
of different stuff.
crafting, that kind of stuff. And it's pretty easy to do. You just throw them in the dehydrator. I do mine for about 24 hours. Make sure you do it in the garage or in the barn, don't in your
They
house,
stink.
because it stinks.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't even think about that because I just do the same as you. I just put them in there. But it might be worth asking, because if you can take that bird and turn it into $10 because it's worth it, why not? If they're just throwing them away, there's not really any meat there. There's no
No,
nutrition.
I've seen our hawks though eat them. Like some of our customers have sent videos, and they don't really tend to care. They just down almost the entire thing. There's very little left of a Coturnix quail when several pound hawk decides it's hungry.
Exactly.
I could see that.
Be worth asking though. Okay. And then the last thing on our little list here is shipping and delivery. What do you do with yours?
So all of ours, thankfully, are local-ish style deliveries. So I think our farthest one's 2.5 hours. So we usually just load up a big Yeti or Igloo cooler with ice and pack all the birds in and roll them out. We're not having to ship. All of our stuff's here is local. So we just do our own delivery. And it makes it nice too, because we get to interact with the customer a little bit more other than just a random box showing up, and people can put a face to the crazy quail guy.
See, that's why I like running my feed route for my deliveries, is I get to interact with my people. Like I like seeing other chicken and quail people.
Yeah, I'm just going to stay here. Everybody has to come visit me. So I do ship. I am probably going to stop shipping probably this summer. I came to a halt last summer and I didn't miss it. It's very difficult to ship, especially in the summer heat, First, I'm really rural, and it's hard to find dry ice, and dry ice is a requirement to ship. And because there's no way to keep it cold. Otherwise, you're going to be paying for overnight, and then it's just not cost effective. The other reason is if it's a big order and it is delayed, how long does it take you to redo that order? And there's just not enough in it for shipping. Shipping's too expensive. Dry ice is almost $3 a pound after tax here. It's just crazy. I don't know. It's not really cost effective. I guess I could raise my prices, and if people were okay with it, then okay, yeah, I'll ship. But right now, the shipping part of it, because people will order 4 babies, and I'm like, why? Let's at least fill the cooler, because I need to fill the cooler. So maybe I should put a minimum or something on it.
That's what we do. Especially on small stuff, we have minimums.
When I first started, I had these itty bitty little tiny coolers, and they fit in a poly shipper. But I have since run out of those, and I probably just haven't updated my website since I ran out of them. That's probably what I need to do. But yeah, so I can't think of really anything else other than the raw dog food people, but those are a different category than what we're talking about. And they're much more selective, I guess is the right word to say. They seem to each want different things. Somebody wants them gutted. Somebody wants toes off. Somebody wants no feathers. They're all different. And so I'm inclined to just sell them live, and they can do what they want to with them that way.
And I think that's one of the things too, especially if you're going to look at that avenue, is being able to know how to almost assembly line it to where hey, this guy is going to get this. And when you're going through and doing everything, making sure of, hey, I have to have 50 that are X, Y, or Z done way. If you're just processing up batches, it's real hard to keep track of that sometimes. And that's where kind of the headache is. We all know it's going to take several weeks to regrow a bird. So if I mess up an order of, hey, all these are supposed to be gutted, hey, now I'm 6 to 8 weeks behind on where we needed to be for that order. So it's one where you really got to be paying attention to.
Yep.
You cannot thaw one out and gut it. It doesn't work. Get mushy. It's straight. Yeah, you don't want.
I wouldn't even want to try that. That would just no.
I didn't do it. I just got feedback from a customer who did it. I don't know. So I don't do a lot of raw dog food here as far as those are concerned. I've done a few here and there. The people who will just hand them a frozen bird and they go gnaw on it, those are my people. The other ones, I'm a breeder first. If I did dog food first, that would be different. But I'm not. I have to set those boundaries, and that's okay. I can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest things too, or biggest disclaimer for all of this type of thing is being able to, one, set your boundaries of, hey, I can't do that. 2, also being upfront about what your actual capacity is. Everybody wants to say, oh, it's great, I can get rid of all these feeders and all this stuff. Yeah, but you're feeding an animal that is on a schedule. If you're not able to keep up with their schedule, you're only going to be able to say I'm behind once or twice before they're going to somebody else that can get them the products that they need. And I think that's where a lot of people don't make that good jump from the hobby side to like the business side, is they're not able to step up and say, hey, I can't do this. This is what I can do. And then making sure that they're able to keep to it. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah. Tell everybody where they can find you, because you don't ship anything, right?
No, we do ship a little bit of stuff, but mainly it's like feet, legs, stuff like that we do ship. We do have our own craft line items that we do. We do resin eggs, products, business card holders, stuff like that, where we try and use more of the quail and the eggshells, all that sort of stuff. But we have Facebook, which is our farm name, Zero G Quail Farms. We also have our website, which is same thing, zerogquailfarms.com. We do have an online store on there. We have a bunch of educational blogs, a lot of kind of cool stuff to really dig around and explore it on that site. And then we're always able to answer through emails or through the website.
And you are in the mountains in Colorado, outside of Denver?
Yeah, we're an hour, or technically 2 hours south of Denver. And that's the other reason why we don't ship a lot of frozen is even for here inside of the state, all of our stuff has to go to Denver and then go somewhere else. So all of our stuff, you're adding at least 2 days to the trip, especially if it's down south. It just doesn't work out that way for a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, logistics.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And if everybody listening wants some help with incubating, we have created a Facebook group, Incubation Masterclass. And Brent is one of the admins in that group too. So he can help you out with the high altitude incubating. That's why we have him in there. Thank you very much for being here, Brent. We appreciated it.
I greatly appreciate it. And on that high altitude thing, on that website, we do have a kind of community experiment we're doing. So if you want to look at some of that stuff and look at the effects of actually shipping eggs from low altitude to high or high to low, and you're hatching a bunch of eggs every year, it might be something to take a look at and see if we can dial some of this stuff in for everybody else around the country that way. So I appreciate the time for letting me come on.
Sounds good. I'll talk to you later.
I enjoyed it. It
Yes,
was awesome.
You guys have a great night.
Thank you for joining us this week. Before you go, be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you can receive new episodes right when they are released. And they're released every week. Feel free to email us at poultrynerds@gmail.com to share your thoughts about the show. Until next time, Poultry Pals, keep clucking, keep learning, and keep it exciting. This is Carrie signing off from Poultry Nerds. Feathers up, everyone.